54. Organization of a permanent society. When it is desired to form a permanent society, the organizers proceed in much the same way as for a mass meeting, except that the meetings while the organization is being formed should usually be carefully limited to persons whose interest in the project is known. For this reason, it may be desirable to solicit attendance for these meetings by personal contact or by letter, rather than by public announcement. First organizational meeting. The first meeting at which the business portion should be kept brief sometimes follows the luncheon or dinner. At those meetings, for purposes of organization, the call to order can be delayed a few minutes beyond the scheduled time if desired. Election of temporary officers and introductory talks. When the person designated for the purpose has called the meeting to order, he announces that the first business is the election of a chairman. As in a mass meeting, the one who calls the meeting to order can either nominate a chairman pro tem or immediately call for nominations from the floor, and the nominees are voted on by voice. After the chairman pro tem has taken the chair, a secretary is elected, also as in the case of a mass meeting, see 53:11 through 13. The chair then calls on the member most interested in the formation of the society to provide background information, or he himself can make the talk. Others can also be asked to give their opinions on the subject, but the chair should not permit any one person to monopolize the meeting. Adoption of a resolution to form a society. After a reasonable time for such informal discussion, someone should offer a resolution proposing definite action. Those who plan the meeting should have prepared in advance a suitable resolution, which may be in a form essentially as follows. Resolved, that it is the sense of this meeting that a society for the object of the proposed society now be formed, or shall now be formed. This resolution, when seconded, is stated by the chair and is then open to debate and amendment. Such a resolution, it should be noted, is only a declaration of intention. Its adoption does not bring the organization into being, which is accomplished by the adoption of bylaws and the signing of the membership roll by those who initially join the society, as described below. If the meeting is a large one, it is usually better that, except for a brief statement of purpose, the resolution be offered before the introductory talks mentioned above. Further business relating to organization. After the resolution to organize the society is adopted, the succeeding steps generally are 1. Introduction and adoption of a motion that a committee of a specified number be appointed by the chair to draft bylaws, called the Constitution or Constitution and Bylaws in some organizations, see 2:8 through 13. For factors affecting the appropriate size of this committee, see 56:4, back to reading, for the society, and where incorporations may be necessary, to consult an attorney as described below. 2. Introduction and adoption of a motion to fix the date, hour, and place of the next meeting, 22, at which the report of the Bylaws Committee will be presented. If it is impractical to set a time and place for the next meeting, the motion can be that, when the meeting adjourns, it adjourn to meet at the call of the chair. 3. Introduction and adoption of a motion authorizing the Committee on Bylaws to provide reproduced copies of the completed draft for distribution to all who attend the next meeting. In this connection, persons seeking to form a society should take into account the fact that expenses may be involved, whether or not an organization materializes. Initiation fees or dues cannot be collected or received in the name of the society until its organization, as described in this section, is completed. Expenses advanced can be reimbursed. Other business before adjournment may include informal discussion of aims and structure of the proposed society, which may serve to guide the Bylaws Committee. See also below. When the business of the first meeting is concluded and a motion to adjourn is adopted, see 53:28 through 13, the chair says either 1. The meeting stands or is adjourned to meet again at the day, hour, and place of the next meeting, or 2. The meeting is adjourned to meet again at the call of the chair. Work of the Bylaws Committee. General principles for guidance on the drafting of bylaws are given in 56. The drafting committee may find it helpful to procure and study copies of the bylaws of other organizations similar to the one being formed, although the possible applicability of their provisions must be carefully evaluated in light of expected conditions within the new society. The committee may also find it advisable to consult a professional parliamentarian. If it is expected that the society will own real estate, become a beneficiary under wills, engage employees, or the like, it may be needed to be incorporated according to the laws of the state in which it is situated, see 2:5 through 7. In such a case, the Bylaws Committee should be authorized to have one or more of its members consult an attorney to secure information and advice regarding the legal requirements that must be taken into account in drawing up the society's bylaws. If the society is to be incorporated, the same attorney should draft the charter or other instrument of incorporation, which the committee submits for approval at the second organizational meeting, before the bylaws are considered unless there is some reason for delay. See below. As indicated above, it is advisable to prepare double-spaced reproduced copies of the proposed bylaws as drawn up by the committee for distribution to each person entering the hall for the second organizational meeting. If desired, such copies can be sent in advance to everyone who attended the first meeting. Second organizational meeting. Reading and approval of the minutes. With the temporary officers elected at the first organizational meeting serving until the regular officers have elected, the first item of business at the second meeting is the reading and approval of the minutes of the first meeting, with corrections if necessary. Consideration and adoption of proposed bylaws. After the minutes are approved, the report to the Bylaws Committee normally is received. If there is a proposed corporate charter, that document is presented first. The Assembly can amend the draft of the Charter, but any resulting modification should be checked by the Attorney, to whom the Charter is returned after its adoption, for processing under the legal procedure for incorporation in the particular state. If there is no proposed corporate charter, the Bylaws Committee Chairman, when recognized for the purpose of presenting the report, begins somewhat as follows. Committee Chairman: Mr. Chairman, the committee appointed to draw proposed bylaws has agreed upon the following draft and has directed me to move its adoption. Reads proposal in full, members following on their own copies, unless the first reading is dispensed with, then moves the adoption of the document as follows. Mr. Chairman, by direction of the committee, I move the adoption of the bylaws. No second is necessary, since the motion is offered by a committee of more than one person. Since the complete set of bylaws is commonly considered by article or section, see 28, the chair states the question as follows. The question is on the adoption of the bylaws as proposed by the committee. The committee chairman, or the secretary, will now read the proposed bylaws one article or section at a time. After each article or section is read, it will be open to debate and amendment. When amendment of one article or section is completed, the next one will be read and considered. No section or article will be adopted until all have been open to amendment. Each article or section is read separately, each provision being carefully explained by the chairman of the bylaws committee as described above. And after the last one has been completed, the chair gives opportunity to insert additional paragraphs or sections and to correct any inconsistency or oversight that may have arisen during the process of amendment as follows. The entire set of bylaws is now open to amendment. Are there any further amendments? If at any point during the consideration of the bylaws it develops that important additions or amendments are desirable but will require more time and investigation to prepare, it is in order to move to recommit 13, the proposed bylaws, with instructions that the committee report in another meeting for which the time can be fixed, or further consideration of the bylaws can simply be postponed, 14, to such a meeting. This third meeting in forming an organization, although in many cases unnecessary, in others often pays dividends in increased understanding and a larger membership. In any event, at the second or third meeting, when there are no further amendments, the question is put on adopting the bylaws. The question is on the adoption of the bylaws as amended. Those in favor of adopting the bylaws say aye. Those opposed say no, and so on, taking a voice vote in the regular manner. In case of doubt, the chair calls for a rising vote and, if necessary, directs that a count be made, or a member can call for a division, 29, and can move that the vote be counted, as described in 450 through 53. Unlike the case of amending or revising the bylaws of an organization already established, 57, the adoption of the bylaws through which a society is brought into being requires only a majority vote. The bylaws take effect immediately upon their adoption. A negative vote on their adoption can be reconsidered, but not an affirmative one. Recess to enroll members. After the adoption of the bylaws, only those who join the society are entitled to vote in further proceedings. At this point, therefore, the meeting recesses to enroll initial members. Immediate admission to membership is contingent upon signing a permanent record sheet provided in advance by the Secretary Pro Tem, to be filled with the original papers of the organization. This signature constitutes agreement to abide by the bylaws and is a commitment to prompt payment of the initiation fee, if there is one, and dues for the first year or other period prescribed by the bylaws. Persons thus signing become charter members. Note: sometimes in forming a society, all who join before a specified date after the actual establishment of the organization are included in the role of charter members. Back to reading. The Secretary Pro Tem records and gives receipt for payments received by members until the treasurer is elected and takes office. Reading of the roll and election of permanent officers. After the recess, the Chairman Pro Tem calls for reading of the roll of the members, and the Secretary Pro Tem does so. The Chair then says the next business in order is the nomination and election of the permanent officers as described in the bylaws. The nominations and election processes are as described in 46, the election being by ballot if the bylaws so prescribe, which they usually should. The members for whom one can vote are not limited to nominees, since each member is free to vote for any member who is not made ineligible by the bylaws. After the election is complete, the chair declares the results. Unless a proviso attached to the bylaws, 57:15 through 17, prescribes otherwise, the newly elected officers immediately replace the temporary ones. Any other essential business. When the officers have been filled and the new president has taken the chair, he should call for any business requiring immediate attention. In a new society, it is generally important that the president have time to give careful thought to committee appointments after examining the list of members. It is therefore often advisable to provide for an adjourned meeting to complete the organization before the first regular meeting. The president may find it essential, however, to name the chairman of certain committees, such as the membership or program committees, immediately. When the business of the meeting has been completed, or when an adjourned meeting has been provided for, a motion to adjourn is in order. If it is adopted, the chair announces the result and declares the meeting adjourned. Subsequent meetings of the society are conducted as described in 3 and 4. For additional information regarding the organization of a federation by a convention or delegates from prospective member societies, see 60.